Hi, everybody. I need some kind of a confirmation from one person saying, telling me that they can hear me. Oh, my microphone is muted. Apparently not. Can somebody hear me? Hello? Somebody say yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. There we go. See, this is something that I'll need to do probably every single week just to make sure that my microphone is on. I don't want to babble on for 2 whole hours without anybody getting to know what's going on. Anyway, so welcome back. Let me. I've sent you an email today morning. I'm assuming most of you got it, but let me give you the gist of the whole thing. I've updated a few things on Moodle. And again, please feel free to stop me whenever you want. Just unmute yourself and talk. Okay, so we'll work towards that. I want to show you first. Let me share my screen with you. There we go. So your Moodle has a few different things in here, so I'll go through most of those. So the first thing is I've removed a little bit of information which you will obviously not need any longer. There is this new component called project documents. Now, the reason why I put them in here is because I had promised that I would. I would, however, prefer that you not look at the project documents right now. Obviously, you're free to open them, read them, just to get an idea in terms of what's going on. But
Unknown participant is now joining.
okay, people have been requesting content anyway. So my suggestion is that you don't look at the project documents right now, or don't start at least working on the project right now. Feel free to open it. Starting today, you will be able to open the project data. I'll give you some suggestions on that today. But week 3 or week 4, I'll introduce the project to you, and then you can probably start off working on it. But please don't start writing your project till week 7. There's a lot of reasoning behind that. Primarily the fact that what you are going to do right now is probably going to be incorrect because you have not been exposed to the right tools. Okay. So as we go through the entire semester, I'll expose the tools to you, and the final tool that you get is not until week 8. So I want you to have some kind of an idea in terms of all the tools that are available to you. And post that, you start writing this. The project is not very big in terms of writing. It's bigger in terms of the fact that you will have to do quite a few tests. But again, we'll get to that once we get closer to the date. Okay? The second thing that's opened up, and you probably won't see all of these, you'll see just the first one, are the video walkthroughs. These are small little snippets, if you want, small little videos telling you how to open files, how to run specific tests, and so on. So once I'm done with today's class, the first 2 hopefully will be open. The only reason why I haven't opened all of them at the same time is because it's just going to be confusing, nothing over and above that. Okay? So those are the 2 components that are open for you. And the one last thing that's going to be available is going to be the tutorial documents. So as I told you in the email, most of you should have received an email from your tutors scheduling the tutorial session. So what you will be doing, and again, this is not extremely easy, but you are going to be juggling 2 things at the same time. The first is this tutorial document, which you are going to be working through, and the tutor is going to give you time to run a test and then run the test himself or herself. In fact, in this semester, it's going to be herself. So some time given to you, about 5 minutes for each test, and then that's going to be followed by the tutors doing the test themselves. So that's how that thing is going to work. So the 2 things that you're going to be juggling are going to be actually running the test, and the second is keeping this document open. It's usually not all that difficult, but with this comes the added work of listening to the tutor uh, who is going to be on your screen. So imagine you are doing three things at the same time. I understand this is going to be difficult, so we'll try and go a little slow. If you have any questions, again, your tutors are really, really receptive to any suggestions. There's one final thing that I want to let you know, which is I usually don't do this till the middle of the semester, but somewhere down here, let me see, where are we? Okay, what I'll do is I'll post a link, primarily because most of you will probably not come up to me and tell me that you want something, something extra from the course. I really prefer it if you let me know via email, but what I'll do is I'll post an anonymous link. So if there's any way you think I can make the class better, any manner or form, I would be happy to do that. Okay, so fill up that survey, send me an email, and again, like I said, you're probably getting 50% of what you would have otherwise with this class, but we have to live with what we have to live with. Okay, so there we go. So let's go back to where we were last time. So we were doing, we're looking at the market research 1011 process. And in the market research 1011 process, we had stopped at step 5. A quick reminder in terms of what these 5 steps are. Obviously, look at the remaining 6 of them today. So the first one was the client asking the market research agency what needs to be done. And there are 5 reasons why the client asked the market research agency. So we've been through that. Reactionary, proactionary research being the most important, your mandatory studies, your concept testing, and so on, tracking studies. The second was, and this is the part which you will need to go back, which you'll need to come back to when you are working on your project. It's the question that you as a market research agency are going to be asking the consumer. The intention being that whatever the client has asked you, you should be able to answer those questions. Any question that you ask the consumer needs to be something that's going to help the manager change one of the 4 Ps. And you'll see a lot about this throughout the entire semester. Unless and until you are telling the manager to change one of the 4 Ps, your strategy is completely useless, always. Okay. So that was step number 2. Determine how we want to collect the data and create the survey. And number 5, we looked at sample design, how many people to look at based on the amount of confidence we want in our surveys, which was the p-value that we talked about in the waning moments of last time's class. Data collection procedure, again, just a reminder, because this is one of the most important things that people forget. There's an ABD, 3 things that need to be collected. Any single survey, if any of these is missing, it's either really purposeful, or if it's not really purposeful, the market researcher is not a good market researcher. Attitude, how you feel about a product, a brand, a company. Behavior, do you buy their products? Do you tell? That's not always behavior. We usually call buying behavior, but if I tell my friend this product is really good, that's also behavior. So behavior and demographics. What was demographics? Demographics was demos and graphos, graphing the human, everything about a human except for the way he or she thinks. The way he or she thinks is psychographics. Okay, so those were the 3 things that you collected.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Those were the 3 things that you collected from the survey. So we will go on to step number 6 today, which is design. Okay, this guy is going to be in the way sometimes. Now, design of the survey, and this is good market research practice. Now, none of this is compulsory, but there are 3 things which as a marketing researcher, if a student is working for me collecting data, three things I evaluate that survey on. Okay. And they are KISS, CM, and SF. Now, again, what they are, I'll talk about them in detail later. There is no order to them. ABD had a certain order. The three of these don't have a certain order, but the last one in here, which is survey fatigue, is the reason behind. Remember, I talked about attitude, behavior, and demographics being collected in that order. That ordering is based on this last box that you see. Give me 1 second. Which is survey fatigue. What is survey fatigue? Survey fatigue is when I start answering a survey. The first question, I might be enthusiastic about it or not, but at least I try my level best to feign enthusiasm and give you an answer. The second question, the enthusiasm wanes a little. Third, it wanes even more. So by the time I'm at the end of the survey, the questions that I answer, the accuracy of those surveys actually declines. So what do? I ask the questions which are important, the questions that are hard first. Hard questions first, because I want them to put a little bit of effort. What is that effort called? It's called cognitive effort. Cognition is thinking. So the thinking effort is what you try and minimize, and give a survey which asks you the hardest questions first and the easy questions last. How difficult is it, let's say, to get your name wrong or name right? How difficult is it to tell me how many people in your family? Those are easy questions. That's demographics. That's the last set of questions that you want to ask. Those are the easiest questions. If a survey starts off by asking you what's your name, that's not being designed by a good designer. That's why the hardest questions come first. How much do you love my brand? How many times have you shopped for my brand? What's your name? At the bottom, if needed. How many people in your family? At the bottom. Gender? At the bottom. So those questions come in last because we need to account for the fact that humans get tired relatively easily. Not only do we get tired easily, we are also what's known as a cognitive miser. What's a cognitive miser? A cognitive miser is a person who doesn't want to think. So we have two problems. First, I don't want to think, and second, I get tired easily. So I want a short survey, as short as possible. The shorter it is, the greater the accuracy. So the two of these, first, the certain order, and second, shorter, are the key elements of a good survey. Now, we used to have a component where you used to design a survey. We don't have that any longer because we moved from a 12-week to a 9-week system. Okay. So the survey that you get is going to be given to you for your project. You don't have to collect data, that's given to you because we don't have time enough. But you will have the opportunity to comment on all of these components. The last one, and this is something which even big market research companies are very, very guilty of. They try and use language which is difficult. Why? I have no idea. This is no place. A survey is no place to show off your English skills. Okay. So this is I consulted for Kraft. Kraft, the name of Kraft has changed in Australia, but Kraft is known for selling cheese. So this is a question from one of Kraft's surveys that I was asked to analyze. The question was, would you consider yourself to be a Turophile? I don't think I know many people who understand what a Turophile is. And I could see based on the answers that the question returned that people had no idea what was going on. A cheerophile is a person who is a connoisseur of cheese, a person who loves cheese, who can tell the difference between various kinds of cheese. Ask that question. Why do we have to ask a question which is showing off your English skills? No, you don't. You keep it as simple as possible. So keep it simple. Simple and stupid is something that is used in a lot of places in marketing, but this is certainly one of those. So what you're taking away from this slide are three things. You keep it short, number one. You keep it simple, number two. So short is number of questions, simple is the language, and third, the order has to be ABD, where the most difficult questions are asked first and the easiest ones are asked last. So that is how survey design goes. You will have a survey. In fact, it's already up on Moodle, which will be made available to you. Okay. Please go through that. You will have comments on those. That's not been created by a person who's excellent. Okay. So you will have enough questions to be enough points that you will be able to talk about when you look at that particular survey. So that was step 6. Steps 7 and 8 kind of go together, and we used to spend a lot of time on this too. This was we're talking about just 5 or 6 years back, where you collect the data and process the data. Collecting data and processing data was difficult.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Collecting and processing data used to be a little difficult because you used to send across a paper-based survey. People used to fill that up, return it to you, and then you would have to manually input it. The great part is that now most of this is done online. So this middleman who used to collect the data has disappeared. The problem, however, is that one thing that still stays in the process is the person who is responding to you, the respondent, the subject, whatever you want to call it. That person might not necessarily be very involved in your survey. And most of them are not. They're doing it for the 50 cents that they're getting, or the dollar they're getting, or the fact that they're doing it for a friend. That's all. The amount of interest level is relatively low. So what we need to do is add what we call logic checks. Okay. Now, this adding of a logic check is actually going against something that I just told you in the previous slide, which was we want to keep this as small as possible. Adding a new question, we hate it. So there are specific instances where we might want to have it. There will be specific instances where we don't. Okay. So it's very, very subjective, but it's good to have a filter question. Let's look at this. This is actually from the data that you are going to be handling starting today. So there was a question: do you prefer an automatic transmission? Now, this question is very, very important, or at that point of time, Ford thought this was a very important question. It was a focal question. People needed to answer this question because I needed to know how important transmission was. Okay. Some people didn't answer that question. If they didn't answer that question, I didn't get that answer from them, so I could throw this in the trash. Because the most important question to me was not being answered, so I can't analyze it, which is why I throw it away. So this is one kind of a logic check and data cleaning process. Okay. So this is a question that is a part of the survey no matter what. If you look at the next question, this is done on purpose. We could easily do without this question, but the reason why I had put this question was just to make sure that people were actually looking at the survey, they were analyzing the survey, they were putting some thought into it, and then answering the questions. So look at questions 5 and 6. Do you own a car? So the options were yes, no. The respondent says no. The very next question, on purpose, says, is it an American car? Now, the correct answer to this is I don't have a car. So the answers were yes, no, I don't have a car. But this respondent says yes. So he's basically going eeny, weeny, miny, mo and picking up an answer. That is a flag to me. If this person is not reading everything carefully, do I even want to analyze his or her data? So what do? I throw it in the trash. So this is collecting and processing data, so you're cleaning out data. When you start working with your project, on your project, you'll see one question that's going to arise, which is going to be, what do I do with data that I'm missing? Okay. Now this is a very valid question, and my answer is going to be, again, this is a suggested answer. That does not mean you need to follow it. Yeah, my answer is going to be, think about this particular scenario. Is this answer which is missing by this respondent, is this answer an important question that you need to answer? If yes, then obviously you need to delete this person. If on the other hand, this is not something which is based on your aims, why throw this person out? The aims are going to be different for each and every one of you. If two people have the same aim, they're copying off each other, believe me. So no two projects are going to be the same. So if you have different aims, your answers towards whether you want to keep a person or not, they are also going to be different. So keep this in the back of your head. The answer always is, it depends. Okay. When you work with me, if you are with me in 3090, I'll start off by saying every single answer in marketing research is, it depends. It depends on what you want to do, what your objectives are. There's no specific answer. There are no rights and wrongs. Okay. Let's move on to step 9. And this is where we are going to be spending our entire trimester, which is analysis of data. So this is going to be split between 2052 and 3054. And also a little in 3090 and 3085. Again, I'm just rattling off numbers, but I've told you what these 4 courses are. So those are the 4 courses which are going to be looking at analysis of data. I'm probably going to, given that we have just 9 lectures, I'm probably going to skip qualitative analyses. So the focus is going to be primarily on data analysis. Okay? So this is the first thing that we tell you. Without using math, I shouldn't be using the term math. I should be using
Unknown participant is now exiting.
I shouldn't be using the term maths because we don't really use maths. We use statistics. In 3090, we do use maths, but again, the maths is not the central component. Okay? So, if possible, I want to use non-statistical methods. Why? The answer always is, because the manager hates maths. The manager hates stats. So we want to create as lovely looking graphs as possible. And those graphs, if they give you something without using statistics, excellent. If not, that's when you move down to mathematical techniques. Again, I should be calling them statistical techniques, but that's not what books call them. But these are all mathematical techniques. They range from something really easy, which is a cross tabulation, which is something that you get introduced to today, to more, middle of the line methods such as regression, which again you are going to be exposed to in this term. Semantic scales, which you get exposed to in 3090, and conjoint, which again is something that you get used to in 3090. If you continue this further, you will get into artificial intelligence, you will get into machine learning, and your focus is going to get even narrower. So I, for example, work in AI, machine learning, and then all the way down to deep learning. So all of us have their small little niche areas where we master our techniques. Okay? So remember this. The analysis usually isn't very simple, but we try our level best, and so should you, to not make it too complex. So I am never going to show you the analysis that goes behind deep learning. All I'm going to show you is the output that goes behind deep learning. The final step, although it's a 10-11 step process, the two of those go together, which is writing the report and taking action. So what's writing the report? You will be doing this in this particular class. It's a report that you're giving to the manager. It's going to have two components, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on writing a report because that's one of the most important things that you need to take away from the lecture. Okay? User-friendly, when I say user-friendly, it's manager-friendly, which means very little statistics. Okay? You need to say what you have done without using too many numbers. Okay? There's nothing wrong with using bullets and dashes. Okay? In fact, I will encourage you to do that in the report. You don't have to, but again, it gets your point across so fast and so strong, and you'll see the difference when we analyze a few reports later on during the semester. Pictures. For us, pictures are graphs. Unfortunately, in 2052, I don't show you too many graphs. In 3090, all you have is graphs. Numbers are fine, and for some people, numbers are more interpretable than pictures. But for most of humanity, a picture is something which can be easily absorbed. Okay? We talk about our brain processing skills and our ability to absorb graphs in 3090, how those translate into speeds. But in this class, every single time, if you have a graph, excellent. That's a lot better of a way of presenting results rather than numbers. Last thing which I am going to place a lot of emphasis in this semester, and in fact even next semester in 3054 if you decide to take that. Bottom line on top, we are not going to call this the blot strategy. What we are going to call this is an executive summary. What is an executive summary? I'll spend some time on that again later on, probably around week 8 of the semester, so that you don't do that before week 8, because I don't want you to. What you're going to be doing is wasting time. So we'll stay away from that. But what you're going to be doing is providing a one-page, and there's a reason behind that one-page, a one-page report to the manager, which says what you did, how you did it, but most importantly, what that means for the manager. What is the managerial decision? How does it help the manager change one of the 4 Ps? Which of the 4 Ps is being changed and why? Okay. I have in your tutorial sheet an exercise which is going to help you in figuring out how to write an aim so that one of the 4 Ps is targeted. Okay. Second, again, I'll probably keep on harping the story again and again. Keep it simple for the manager. There are 2 things in here, most of which is summated by the sentence. Numbers are important, but don't go crazy with numbers. Saying that men and women differ, that's not a big deal. Anybody can run that analysis. Men and women differ. Men are 3 times as sensitive as women, which implies you need to spend more money on men. That is the complete story that you are going to be looking at. Similarly, so I gave you the example of what men want and what women want in a car. If a person who walks into my dealership, I'm selling a car, if the person is a man, what is it that they are focused upon? They are focused on visor mirrors. That's one of the most important attributes. That's usually the most important attribute outside of price. Okay. So I talk to them about visor mirrors. The fact that it's lighted, it's backlighted, it's LED lighted, you get whatever you want to do. Whereas for women, what do I say? Look at those cup holders. Push cup holders on your right, on your left. And that helps them. in selling the product. So that's what you are going to be doing, giving specific strategies to these people. Finally, step 11, which is a part of the MR1011 process, but we don't touch it. Why? Because most market research agencies don't do it. What is step 11? Action. Consider IBM. IBM is a market research company. People don't know that, but IBM is one of the world's biggest companies in terms of market research. So what does IBM do? IBM tells you what is the best possible solution and implements it. This implementation is usually something which market research agencies do not do. But there are some market research agencies which not only tell you what to do, but do it. Okay. That's step number 11, which is action. So given that most of them don't do it, that's why it's called the 10-11 process. For some companies, it's a 10-step process. For some companies, rare companies, it's an 11-step process. JD Powers is a company which implements its solutions. IBM is a company that implements its solutions. Most of other companies don't. There's some of them do, but most of them don't. So that concludes our 10-11 process. Notice that 11 is in red because I just introduced that to you because that is what the market research industry uses. So 10-11 step process, and that's pretty much the end of theory for this semester. Okay, I'm not going to look at theory. What I'm going to do now is move from the theoretical aspect to, again, I might call it statistical analysis, but the focus is not going to be on stats itself. The focus is going to be on the outputs of statistical analysis. So from here we move on to the beginnings of market research, which is statistical analysis. So what does statistical analysis do? I'm going to talk about 5 different types of statistical analyses and then group them into 4. I'll explain why. This is not something you're going to find in most books. Some books have them. It's what it tries to do is in 4 categories explain everything that market research does. I frankly think it can be done in even 3, which is why I have given you a 3 categorization, then I give you a 5 one, and then I come back to a 4 one. All of them will mean pretty much the same. I understand that this is a little bit non-intuitive, but what I try and do is explain first logically what it should be, and finally what it is in real life, what it is when you go to the industry. My focus is always going to be what is happening in the industry. If I can make it easier to understand in the process, that's what my entire aim is going to be. So 3 things that market research is going to do. Okay, and we'll give these names as we go along. I'll give them really nice and lovely names, statistical names. The first is, what do 2 people have in common? 2 people that I have picked up. Is there anything in common between the 2 of these people? And the part that's missing in every statistical book is with respect to my product, with respect to my question. So what is the commonality between 2 people with respect to my product? Okay, so I'm selling chips. So I pick up a 90-year-old man, I pick up a 15-year-old kid. Both of them are a part of my target market. What is the commonality between them? The commonality is that both of them have 0 purchasing power. Okay, so that's the commonality. So I'm trying to figure out what's the commonality between them. That's the first thing that we are going to do. Find common things. The second one is, how are they different? So let's go back to the same example. 15-year-old, 90-year-old. Okay, both of them don't have purchasing power, so What am I going to do? Do I want to sell to them? Yes, I do. But the child or the 15-year-old kid, this person can have as many chips as they want because their digestive system is in perfect order. So they can have 5 different packets of chips on a given day and they'll be fine. The 90-year-old person suffering from diabetes, suffering from cholesterol, he can't have 5 packets of chips. He can probably have 5 chips total. So that's how they are different. They are different in terms of consumption. They are similar in terms of purchasing power. They are different in terms of consumption. So I need to have different strategies for both of these people. Different advertising strategies. The example I'm giving you is really stupid and basic, but that's how we start off. Always. Look at something which is really basic and then you move on to higher levels. Finally, the third component of market research is prediction. What is prediction? So I saw that the 15-year-old kid and the 90-year-old man, they were similar in terms of purchasing power. I saw that they were different in terms of the amount of chips that they could eat. Now, I meet a third person. This third person is a 45-year-old woman. Based on what I have seen in terms of similarity between the two people and the difference between the two people, can I make a prediction for the third person? That's the third thing that market research does. And most of the analyses that we do is going to move towards prediction. We do work in finding commonalities and difference, but at the end of the day, whatever predictions I make, they need to work. If they don't work, then your market research and entire process of marketing research was useless. Now we are going to look at all 3 of these in this trimester. In 3054, the focus is going to be primarily on number 1, which is commonality between people. I'm going to draw a sweet little diagram in a second, but give me that 2 minutes. In 3090, you will look at why people differ. The prediction component is also something that you will look at in 3090. So what I'm going to do before I go any forward is draw a little diagram. And that diagram is something that you would have seen in, you should have seen in Introduction to Marketing, but if you haven't, that's fine. So the marketing process, the entire marketing process is what's known as, it centers around what's known as the STP framework. What is STP? Segmentation. T is targeting. P is positioning. Segmentation, targeting, positioning. There is nothing outside of this in marketing. No matter what anybody tells you, these 3 are the only 3 things that you have. So segmentation, what does segmentation try and do? What is a segment? A segment is a group of people that have similar needs for your product. So we have people who want an iPhone. All of these people want an iPhone. And then we have another segment, which is they want Samsung. So these are 2 segments of people. So how are these segments created? These segments are created based on finding out what's common between people. How are these segments created? They are also created by finding out what's different across people. Everybody in this segment wants an iPhone. Everybody in this segment wants a Samsung Galaxy. Everybody inside is similar, but the people in these 2 segments are different. So similarity within a segment, differences across segments. So this is how we identify segments using how people are different and how people are similar. Positioning, I use the segments identified. What's positioning? Positioning is changing one of the 4 P's. I am going to make my product more focused on the target market by changing either the price, I make it cheaper, I make it more expensive. The place, I decide to sell it at a new place. I decide to sell it on the web. Promotion, I decide to give you some kind of a promotion. Product, price, place, promotion. What did I lose? Product, or change the product by itself. So instead of getting a phone which is black, I get a phone. I create a phone that's white in the back. So that's changing the 4th P. The purpose of market research is to create segments and then tweak your product, which is known as positioning, by changing one of the 4 P's so that I sell to the right segment to the maximum amount possible. What's this thing in the middle? Targeting. This is the finance guy, this is the accounting guy doing their job. Which one is going to get me the maximum amount of money in the short run, in the long run, or so on. Okay, so we spend a lot of time on targeting when we are when in 3090. Okay, so that's what your statistical analysis is going to look like. The focus again is I am going to create segments and then give suggestions on how to tweak my product to come up with the best possible product for my targeted segment. Okay, first type of statistical analysis. I'm going to show you 5, but I'm going to group them into 4 and I'll tell you why. The first one is what's known as descriptive analysis. This is easy. This is mean, median, mode. If you don't remember mean, median, mode, it's fine. We'll have a look at those. You are trying to describe what your target market. You're trying to describe your target market. That is descriptive analysis. So let's have a look at the examples. So what are the demographics? My target market consists of people between the ages of 30 and 45 who have a household income of greater than 150,000, who own 2 cars and have kids. Description. That's it. You are describing your target market. Okay. Another description. What percentage of people have purchased a new car? This is also a description. There is no analysis in here. All I'm doing is I'm asking you, have you bought a new car? Yes, no. Yes or no. That's it. Okay. Are people satisfied with their bank? On a scale of 1 to 7, how satisfied are you? And this is how we are going to start off with statistics in our example today. Okay. So what cause related products do people buy? Here's a small little thing that I've shown you. There is no statistics that's gone into it. You understand, right? There is no test that I've done. What have I done? I've asked 100 people, how satisfied are you with Ford? 55 have told me, since it's percentages, 55 have told me they're very satisfied. 39 have told me that they are satisfied. The others are either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied or somewhat satisfied. No stats. It's just a description, hence descriptive analysis. Okay, first type of analysis, and this is what we are going to start off with today. The second type of analysis is what's known as inferential analysis. Okay. Let's talk about the population and sample. We did talk about population and sample last time too, but let's just remind ourselves. What is the population? The population is every single person who has the slightest chance of buying my product. Okay. This is the best definition that you can get of population in a marketing scenario. which is every single person who has the slightest chance of buying my product. There's another term we call this. In marketing, we call this the market. What's a market? A market is every single person who has the slightest chance of buying my product. Okay? So, we never survey everybody because it's impossible. We never survey our entire market because it's impossible. What we do instead is, from this market, we pick up a small set of people, which we call the sample. Okay? So we have the market, which in statistical nomenclature is known as the population, and then we have the sample. So here is the first thing about statistics. What is statistics trying to do? And this is going to hold always. Statistics' major focus is that instead of looking at the entire population, you look at a small subset, which is called a sample. And based on this sample, I make predictions about the population. I survey a small set of people and then make predictions about the entire population. Is this going to be correct? I don't know. Which is why the p-value. So, what is the p-value? The p-value tells you, based on the sample that you see, how confident can you be that the market is going to show the exact same pattern. So let's take 2 minutes in here, because this is central to all that you are going to be doing for all these 4 courses. Let us suppose I have a market. I have a possible market of 30 million people, which is pretty much all of Australia and New Zealand. I'm selling to Australia and New Zealand, and the population is 30 million. I'm selling to every single person. Now, I'm not going to survey everybody. How many people am I going to survey? It depends on how confident I want to be. Let us suppose I sample 3,000 people. So the population is 30 million people. The sample is 3,000 people. Based on what I find in here, so I asked these 3,000 people, what are the chances on a scale of 1 to 7 that you are going to buy my product? On a scale of 1 to 7, how likely are you to buy my product? And let us suppose they say, on average, we'll talk about averages in 10 minutes. On average, they say 5.3. 3,000 people told me that on average, the chances of them buying my product are 5.3 on a scale of 1 to 7. How confident can I be that in the population, the chances of buying my product are also going to be 5.3? Am I 100% confident? The only way I can be 100% confident is if I sample everybody. Not the 3,000, but the 30 million people. But that's not the way it is. I'm probably going to sample a lesser number of people, which is 3,000, and I will be willing to live with a confidence of 97%. So 97%, the 5.3 that I saw in the sample is going to be the same in the population. This 97% is the opposite of the p-value that we are going to be playing with. This 97% means I am willing to live with an error of 3%. Look at these two, these numbers are exact opposites of each other. I am 97% confident I'm willing to live with an error of 3%. Both of them mean exactly the same thing. 97% confident, I'm willing to live with an error of 3%. This 3% is what we call the p-value in statistics. This is pretty much all that I'm going to talk about as far as p-value goes. Your focus as far as this trimester goes needs to be only on the p-value, nothing else. Nothing else is important. Obviously the tests are, but I'm never going to go back and show you a normal distribution and tell you to understand, explain it. Or I'm never going to say, okay, look at the table and tell me how confident you can be. The only thing that you're going to do is from the test, look at the p-values. And if the p-value is less than 0.05, 0.05 is 5%. Because this number varies between 0 and 1, percentage varies between 0 and 100, so 0.05 is 5%. I'm willing to live with an error of 5%. That's what we are going to be bowing to. As I told you last time, that's not really an end all and a be all, but we are going to live with an error of less than 5%, and the results that we get, if they make sense, we'll hold on to those, or otherwise we'll just let them be. So that's going to start off today. I'll give you some examples of that. Okay, so inference. I am going to make an inference about the population given the sample. I know what's happened in Sydney when I decrease the price of my product by 15 cents. What's going to happen in Melbourne? What's going to happen in Perth? I'm trying to make an inference based on what I got in one place to another place. This is what's known as inferential analyses. Based on one thing, you make an inference about the second. Here's a graph. Again, it doesn't really show much. It's more funny than anything else. But based on what has been seen in terms of people reporting their life satisfaction, the jocks in school had a terrible time later, whereas the nerds in school had a terrible time when they were in school, but their satisfaction, their life satisfaction increased. So based on a small sample of people, which is showing me this graph, I am going to make a prediction for the entire population and say nerds have it good later on in life, most people have it good, or the jocks have it good in the beginning part of their life. Okay, so that's just a simple illustration. The second, differential analysis. We've had a chat about this. Now we are giving it a name. It's called both statistics. It's called differences analysis. Psychology, it's called differential. Both of these terms mean exactly the same thing. Is there a difference across groups? Do men and women differ in terms of how much they like your car? Do men and women differ in terms of how much they want speed in their car? Do men and women differ in terms of the comfort level of the car? Here's another example. Local and international students, is there a difference in terms of who is more likely to purchase a cause-related product based on environment, for example? Now, an international student is paying a lot more money, she's paying a lot more money, she doesn't have too much of disposable income, she might not be that interested. Whereas a local student who's not paying that much of fees is probably more interested, has more disposable income. Again, might not be correct, but that's an inference that I can make. These two groups are different from each other. Okay. So that is differential analysis. So here is the visor mirrors that I have mentioned multiple times. This is real data. So you can see females, a lot of them actually don't care. On a scale of 1 to 7, 1 meaning don't care, 7 meaning care lots. Women, females, there are a lot of them that don't care. There are quite a few women who do care, but the number of men who care is a lot more. So this is a difference between the two groups, males versus females. So that's the second type of, well, it's the first type of analysis, which is a differences analysis, because the first type that we saw was just a description. The third type of analysis is associative analysis, exactly what it sounds like, an association between two or more. Here's a term that I'm going to introduce, variable. What's a variable? A variable is a hypothetical value. It's a value which can take multiple possible answers. The age of the respondent is a variable. It can be 10, it can be 20, it can be 50. The gender of a person is a variable. It can be male, it can be female. The race of a person is a variable. Okay? You can have 8 different values. So a variable is a value which can take multiple possible answers. So what we are going to do is, in associative analysis, we do a little bit of associative analysis in this trimester. Is there a relationship between two variables? So what is the association? Age goes up, income goes up. That's a positive association. The two variables are positively associated to each other. Education goes up, income goes up. Two positively related variables. Gender goes from male to female, income goes down. We know that there is an income discrepancy across the genders. You go from male to female, your income goes down. So two variables are going to be related such that as one moves in a direction, the second one also moves. If two variables are related, it means a lot for marketing. I can have lovely little strategies. If two variables are not related, if there is no association between them, marketing can't use that variable. So I want associations to exist. If associations do not exist, that managerially might mean something, but as far as a marketing manager goes, not very useful. I'll give you examples of those as we move on forward. So let me show you data from the US. So this is percentage of births to unmarried women. So what are the two variables? One of them is race, which is at the bottom, and the second one is percentage of births to unmarried women, which is shown in a percentage scale in here. So if you are black, 68% of births are going to be out of the wedlock. If you're an Asian, your mom and dad probably sit on top of your head 24 hours of the day, so there's no way that's probably going to happen. So it's a cultural thing. It might be based on a million different things, but you see that there is an association. So if I want to advertise, I want to sell my product based on the association of these two variables. I am a car seller. If a black person comes in versus an Asian person comes in, I can make certain changes to the 4 Ps that I'm offering to these consumers. What is the promotion if the person who walks in is an Asian woman as compared to a black woman? So that's the kind of advertising strategy that I'm going to, that's the kind of analyses that I'm going to use towards my advertising strategy. Predictive analysis. What's predictive analysis? Something has happened in the past. What's going to happen in the future? That's prediction. Based on past patterns, I'm going to predict future patterns. In the past, I have seen children buying my product. In the future, these children will move from being 15 to 16 years old to about 25 years old, where they're going to be young men and women. I expect the demand of my product to go down because these kids don't really want my product any longer. So that's a prediction that I'm making. And you've seen so many of these graphs. Okay. Things have happened till here. What's going to happen in the future? It might increase, it might decrease, it might increase at an increasing rate, it might decrease at a decreasing rate. There's some prediction that I'm making. So this says worst case scenario, this is going to happen. Best case scenario, this is going to happen. I'm just making a prediction. Now, the four of these, notice that inference and difference, I've clubbed them together because that's how most books show them. We are going to do tests that focus on each of these. So in description, which is where we start off today, we are going to look at mean, median, frequency. Then we move on to inferences and differences. The first thing that we are going to do is t-tests. And then we move on to ANOVA. Oops, sorry. Association, we'll do correlation. Today we are going to start off with chi-square also. So we start off with an associative analysis. So what's the order? The order is a little messed up and you'll figure out why. We want to find a logical method of going through this, but it does not align with these four. And the last one, the easiest one that we are going to be doing as a part of this class is regression. There are lots of predictive techniques. We are just doing the easiest one for this particular class. Now, the next two slides, if you master this, believe it or not, you have mastered most of the tests in terms of what test to use. Now, I'm going to ask you to forget pretty much all of what you have done in psychology if you've taken classes in psychology, and most of the variable classification that you've done in statistics. What I'm going to ask you to do is remember just three types of variables. And believe it or not, this is what's present out there, no matter what statistics tells you. These are the only three types of data that are used in the industry. Okay. What are these? These are a nominal variable. We'll talk about what a nominal variable is. An ordinal variable. It'll take some time for you to get a hang of this. Don't worry about it. An ordinal variable. The third one, which is known as a continuous variable. Now, I've not really written continuous variable. What I've written instead is terms that you've learned in statistics, terms that you've learned in psychology, interval, scale, ratio. All three of these, interval, scale, ratio, are continuous variables. I would suggest that rather than use these words, use the term continuous. Even if you decide to use these, it's fine. I have no problems. But continuous is the term that's used in the industry, so I would suggest that being the best possible option. Okay? So three types of data. And if you master these three types of data, if you know exactly what each of these is, picking the right test is a piece of cake. And we are going to take these three data types. Everything is going to center around these three data types to be able to pick up what test to run. Okay? So the first type of data is what is known as nominal data. Okay? The best way of this thing, of remembering what nominal data means, is to translate this into English. Nominal data is nominated data. So you're nominating something. Okay. So male and female, 0, 1, 1, 0. It doesn't make a difference. There is no order to this. No group is better than the other. All groups have their own standing. Now, males and females is easy. I can have males first and females second. There is no order to them. Neither of them is better than the other. So these two groups are nominated. I could call these groups, I could call males 0 and females 1, or females 1 and males 0. I'm just nominating a number. I can give them any nominated number, it doesn't make a difference. Let's look at race. A slightly more complicated scenario, but probably a lot better in terms of understanding what's going on. We have Asians. I'm not using the politically correct term because of the letters. Blacks. We have Caucasians. Let's take one more. Hispanics. Now, Asians, Blacks, Caucasians, and Hispanics. The order is not important. There is no order. I can't say that any of the races is better than the others. Right? So what I can do is, when I actually analyze data, I can code Caucasians as 0, Blacks as 1, Hispanics as 2, Asians as 3. Or I can code Blacks as 0, Asians as 1, Caucasians as 2, and Hispanics as 3. The order doesn't make a difference. There is no order, which is why order doesn't make a difference. This kind of a variable is called a nominal variable. I'm just nominating them. The focal point is that there is no order. The second type of variable, ordinal. There is an order to the data. There is an order to the data. So it's either increasing or decreasing. Either is fine, but there is some kind of an order. Education. Education, what is your level of education? So your level of education is schooling, college, postgraduate. 3 possible answers. Schooling, college, postgraduate. There's an order. That's an increasing order of education. Saying schooling, postgraduate, college, that doesn't make sense because you messed up the order. So the variable either increases or decreases. If a variable increases or decreases, it's an ordinal variable. It's as simple as that. In the first one, nominal, there is no order. Second one, ordinal, there is an order. The third one, which is a continuous variable, and I'm going to say something which statisticians are going to come back and tell me I'm wrong. I am, but it's probably a lot easier to explain it that way. There is nothing called a continuous variable because, simple thing, there is no continuous variable because any variable can be subdivided into smaller categories. Let's look at a number such as age. If somebody were to ask me what my age is, I could say my age is 43. I could say my age is 43 years, 3 months, whatever, 12 days. I could classify this even further. I could say 43 years, 3 months, 12 days, 13 hours. 13 hours, 12 minutes, 13 seconds. So no matter how fine you go, a continuous variable is actually just an ordinal variable, but with lots of possible answers. Lots of possible answers. So a continuous variable actually does not exist. What we do is, if an ordinal variable has 5 or more possible answers, an ordinal variable has 5 or more possible answers, you can assume it to be a continuous variable. Okay, remember this, and we'll probably discuss this multiple times. A continuous variable is an ordinal variable which has 5 or more possible answers. So what's my age? I can probably ask you, My age is less than 18, 18 to 29, greater than 29. Everybody's covered. But how many groups are there? 3. There are just 3 groups. In this case, age is a categorical variable. It's an ordinal variable. Sorry, I shouldn't be using the term categorical. I'll introduce categorical in 2 minutes. Age is a ordinal variable because there are just 3 levels. Now to this, let us suppose I say 29 to 35, 35 to 50, and greater than 50. How many levels do I have now? How many possible answers do I have? 5. If it's 3 possible answers, I have to take it as an ordinal variable. But now that I've given you 5 possible answers, I can assume it to be continuous variable. And every chance that you have, you want to assume a variable to be a continuous variable. Why? Because you have a lot more lovely tests, interesting tests, and statistically better tests that you can run. The problem with ordinal variables, the problem with nominal variables is that the number of tests that you can run is very, very small. Very small. So you don't want to work with a nominal and ordinal variable wherever possible. What you want to work with is a continuous variable. That's not to say that you can't work with nominal and ordinal. It's just that the number of options that you have are statistically better, and you have a lot more options if you work with continuous variables. So a continuous variable is a variable which is ordinal in nature and has 5 or more possible answers. Statistics will tell you nana, psychology will tell you nana, but marketing research, that's what we assume in the industry. Okay. Why? Because we want to use better tests. We don't want to be kosher statistically. That's not the focus. The focus is, can I convert this into one of the 4 P's for the manager? The 2 of these variables, nominal and ordinal variables, they are together called categorical variables. So you have categorical, categorical. Sorry about the handwriting, but we have what we have. What's a categorical variable? A categorical variable is either a nominal variable or an ordinal variable. So you either have categorical variables or continuous variables. Those are the 2 kinds of variables that you have, with categorical variables being further split into nominal and ordinal. Now, let me ask you a question. And again, the questioning is not happening in here. Let's go back to the race question that we had. We had Asians, Blacks, Caucasians, Hispanics. To this, let's add one more category, which let's say Pacific Islanders. It's 5 levels. Can I assume this to be continuous? The answer is no, you can't. A nominal variable is a nominal variable always. A nominal variable, if you're stuck with a nominal variable, you're stuck with a nominal variable. You cannot ever assume it to be continuous. It's only an ordinal variable that you can assume to be continuous. This is why the 2 categorical variables are not bunched together. One of them is a lot more amenable to be, arm twisted, which is the ordinal variable. Nominal, unfortunately, you got what you got and you have to live with it. So those are the 3 types of variables that we are going to be working with. And with that, I am going to, and I'm going to do this along with you. I'm going to open the data set that's there at our disposal and work through the data set a little bit today, and then we'll take it from there. Starting today onwards, I'll still look at slides, but not as much. My focus is going to be more on running the test and setting the scenario for the test. Okay, so that's the end of your first set of slides. We don't want our annotations. We'll leave them be. And what we will do is, first, And this is how it's going to work. So you'll have a recording of this, and I've shown you how to do this anyway in that file over there. You are going to download this data set. It's called primary dataset cars.sav. Please don't try and open it from here. What you want to do is download it. Okay, so I am going to download it. No, it'll depend upon the browser that you have. I'm using Firefox, so it's giving me the option of opening it. You will not have the option of opening it. You will have to save it. So let us suppose I save the file, and that file has been saved in my downloads folder. There you go. See that? It's in my downloads folder. Now, don't focus on these, just that. Now, when you look at this file, see this icon which looks like what is SPSS? This icon looks like an SPSS icon. You might not see that. Okay, you probably will not see that the first time you run it, so don't worry about it. Now, understand the concept of what we are going to do. And also probably a background story. So when I joined UNSW, I was teaching 3054, and SPSS was bought out by IBM. Now SPSS, prior to being bought out by IBM, had a student copy, which was free to use. Now it's no longer free to use. They'll probably make it free to use in the very near future, though, so we don't really know. But anyway, right now it isn't. So what the uni did was bought the license for all students. I think we have about 500 simultaneous logins. So 500 people can use SPSS simultaneously. Now this SPSS is going to run not on your computer. Okay, this is what's known as cloud-based computing. It's going to be running on a server at UNSW. Okay, in the science department. I'm pretty sure it's in the science department. Okay, so you are going to be logging into the computer in the science department, but the data file that you have is going to sit on your computer. So you are working on two computers simultaneously. The data file is on your computer. The SPSS is going to run off the science service. So have a look at what I'm going to do. And again, the browser itself might vary a little, so there might be small little changes. If you have a problem with running this, please contact the team that's going to be listed in here. Try not to run this with Chrome. It's not that it doesn't work with Chrome, it does create a little bit of a problem. Any other browser should be fine. So it works on Chrome computers though. So it works perfectly on Chrome computers, but the Chrome browser tends to create a problem. So the website that you want to go to is MyAccess UNSW. Okay. Now, if you click on that, this is what you're going to see. Okay. So what has been done, and I started this software as it was really small to start off with, and only SPSS for 3054 was introduced to the students first, and then slowly we outsourced this. Now this is available for the whole university, and there are a lot of softwares available, most of which you're not going to use, but a few of them are really interesting. But all that you are going to look at as far as this trimester goes is SPSS. What you need to do is click on Access My Apps. I'm hoping you can see my screen clearly. So your ZID, that's mine. Sign your life away and click on log on. Now, it says welcome to Citrix receiver. This will happen just once. After this, next time onwards, it's going to be easy. So what it's asking you to do is install what's known as a Citrix receiver. What's a Citrix receiver? It's just allowing you to log on to the servers at the university. So you will have to install this. Now it's asking me to detect. Okay, I don't have it.
没有空
Neither will you.
啊？
You are not going to have this either. So what you'll need to do
应
is...
该是在几个
Is somebody saying something?
在上课啊，在客厅椅子旁边啊，就比较高白色那个桌子中间那边吧。哎，摇不动是那个问题，又不是就是
That does not sound like English. If you are trying to say something, could you just be a little louder? No? Okay. Anyway, so what you do is click on I agree with the Citrix license agreement, download it, and once you have downloaded it, that I did say save file. The question is, where did it save? Ah, there you go. So once you have downloaded it, excellent. Okay, this is new. Oh, it's still downloading, my fault. Okay, there you go. There you go. It's a 132 MB file, so it hadn't downloaded by then. Install it. And again, I have the stepwise instructions already, but please, you can come back to this video and have a look. Once this is installed, it will allow you to open SPSS on your computer, and that's what the intention is going to be. Let's see. This is, like I said, just a one-time thing, and I didn't know this would take this long. Otherwise, I would have just pre-installed it. Okay, don't click on add account, just click on finish. Okay, let's not restart right now. That's not going to be an easy thing to do. And when you do this, you should be able to come to this particular website. Okay, this is what it looks like. So there are lots of softwares that are available. We started off small with just SPSS, but as you see now, pretty much all the software is available for you, anything that you can think of. So there are 4 things that are going to be related to SPSS. So there is SPSS Modeler. This is for big data analysis, a little bit of artificial intelligence. SPSS Smart Reader, which is useless. I have no idea why they've installed it. This is just to look at data files. What you are going to be using is going to be this particular software, which is IBM SPSS Statistics, not Modeler, IBM SPSS Statistics. Okay, if you click on that, what's going to happen is SPSS is going to open up. It's going to ask you about adding account. Whenever you get add account, just close it. Okay. Never try and enter your account, because if you do, all you're doing is sharing your email address, your login and password when it's not needed. So just don't do it. Again, first time it's going to take a little bit of time. Next time onwards, it's going to be relatively faster. So what I'm going to be doing starting next week onwards is using a local copy of SPSS so that I don't have to go through this. Unfortunately, that's not an option that's available for you. So you will have to go through this using My Access. And again, like I said, it's just the first time that it's taking this long. It's not going to take this long in the future. It's taking a little longer than I thought it would. Ah, crashed. Oh no, it didn't crash. I'm assuming because a lot of students are trying to log in at the same time, which is, that's why it's taking this long. It should not take this long, I can assure you. Please make sure that if you get this, you click on permit all access. So what you're doing is, and again, I'm not asking you to do this blindly, the reason why you're letting it access everything is because you need to read the file, you need to write the file, so you are allowing everything to happen. Okay? So permit all access so that you can read and write the file from your own computer. There we go, finally. That's SPSS. Okay? So here is what you are going to be doing. The data file is on your computer. Okay? So click on open. Okay, mine seems to be stuck. Yeah, this has happened in the past. Okay, what I'm going to do, since this is creating a little bit of a problem, what I'm going to do is use a local copy of SPSS and explain everything from there. This part of the video, I'm going to go back and record it and upload it for you because it's not supposed to sync, but this has happened to me in the past. It might just be my connection. So I'm going to open a local copy of SPSS. So there we go. This is my local copy of SPSS. What you will need to do is click on open. Now, this is going to look slightly different, okay, from what you are going to see. What you will need to do is go up to the highest possible level and look for your computer. It's going to be called my MacBook or my PC or whatever it's going to be called. Make sure that you connect to the C colon or the downloads folder of your particular computer. I'll do this, I'll show you in a video, and obviously all the tutors will also show it to you. But you have to be really careful about this, which is you need to go to the downloads folder of your computer, because by default, it's going to take you to the downloads folder of the computer, which is sitting at UNSW. And that's not where you've downloaded your data. Okay? But you've downloaded your data onto your computer, so you need to select your computer and then go to the downloads folder of your computer. So if I go to the downloads folder of my computer, there's my data file. And you will have to click on open from inside SPSS. You cannot double click on the SAF file. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You should open the file from inside SPSS rather than double clicking it. Okay? All of this is stuff that you're going to learn. And here is the data file that we are going to be sticking with for the entire semester. Now, this is what an SPSS spreadsheet looks like. It looks like an Excel worksheet, right? It looks very similar to an Excel worksheet. The difference is that this is primarily meant for surveys. So not just surveys, other things too, but primarily for surveys. So there are two things in here which you will notice are not there in Excel. Excel has sheets. SPSS has views, and SPSS has just two views. The first one is, look at the left hand side bottom corner. There's a data view, there's a variable view. The data view is what you're seeing right now. It's the raw data. It's the Excel file. So imagine, if you will, it's an Excel file with a certain number of rows and a certain number of columns. It's exactly the same. So what is this? It is one respondent. This is respondent number 1, who has given me answers to a certain number of questions. What are these questions? We'll have a look at those. Okay. How many people do I have? How many respondents do I have? What is my sample? My sample is 155 responses. So I have responses for 155 people. And they have given me answers to how many questions? We'll look at that in a second. So this is the raw data, which is respondent. What is the respond? Respondent number 2, what is the response? Respondent number 3, what is the response? And all the way down to response number 155, what are the responses? The second component of an SPSS worksheet is the variable view. Let's click on that. What is the variable view? The variable view tells you, and again, this is not always present, but it's present in this particular data set. We want the first data set that we want to work with to be very self-explanatory. So this is a list of all the questions that the respondent has answered. Let's go through the questions. I won't go through all the questions, but I'll explain what they are. The first question that has been answered is just an ID. It's respondent ID. Let's look at all of these, what each of these means. This is the name of the variable. This, what you see in here, is exactly the same thing that you'll see up here. So the first variable is ID, the second is card, the third is issue, the fourth is an issue, and so on. Look at the variable view, ID, car, issue, and so on. So all the variables that you see in the data view have an explanation in the variable view. Okay? So those are the two views that you get. Although all the analysis is going to be done in the data view, the variable view tells you what each question means. The survey is actually embedded in here, and we'll see what that survey is. Instead of looking at the first one, which is just a number that's been given to people, let's start off with the second variable, which is car. Okay. What does this question mean? That question has been put in the label component. It is the type of luxury car that you own. So this data set is asking people who own a luxury car about the characteristics of the car that they own. So the first characteristic is, what is the type of luxury car? And the answers are in the very next column. The possible answers are in the very next column. If you click on this, Three dots are going to come up. The three answers are you could either own an American car, an American luxury car, a European luxury car, or a Japanese luxury car. So there are three different types of cars that you can own, three different luxury cars. So let's go and have a look at the data view. There you go. That's the data view. The first respondent, what kind of car does he own? Car type number 1. What is car type number 1? It's American. The second one, what does he own or she own? Again, American. This data is sorted by the type of car that you own. So these are people who own American cars. Out of 155, 58 of them own an American car. The 59th one owns car type number 2. What is car type number 2? European car. So the 59th person owns a European car. All the way down to 97. Starting 97, everybody owns a Japanese car. So I have talked to 155 people, and these 155 people in their survey response have told me they either own an American car, a Japanese car, or a European car. What kind of a variable is this? Is there an order to this? There is no order. It's a nominal variable. Why? Because one right now is an American car, but one could be a Japanese car. There is no order. Could be anything at all, which is why it's a nominal variable. If, on the other hand, instead of type of car, it was horsepowers of the car, 300, 400, 500, there's an order to it. So it's an ordinal variable. In this case, however, it's an American, Japanese, and European. There is no order. Somebody might say, but American cars are the worst cars, European cars are the best cars. That's a perception that we have, need not necessarily be true. And certainly that's not a perception that I want to force onto you. So that's why there is no order to it. Hence, it's a nominal variable. Let's look at the second variable. It's actually not just the second variable. This is a set of variables which we call issues. What are these variables? I have asked the consumers issues 1 through 20, which is 20 questions about issues that you face. So the first issue is, do you agree with the statement, 1 being strongly disagree, 7 being strongly agree, that having a car is a major part of my fun and excitement? So all I'm asking you, this is a psychographic question. Do you agree with the statement that having a car is a major part of your fun and excitement on a scale of 1 to 7? 1 to 7. It might be an ordinal variable, but it's got more than 5 levels, so I can assume it to be continuous. SPSS does not call it a continuous variable. SPSS calls it a scale variable. I'll come down to that in a second. What about the next one? Owning a car is a part of being good to myself. Again, a scale of 1 to 7. All issues are on a scale of 1 to 7. All the 20 issues are on a scale of 1 to 7. So all of them are continuous variables. And SPSS usually does a really good job at classifying variables. Do you see this column out here? This is just for you. When it comes to analyses, SPSS will do any analyses. This is more for you so that you know what a variable is. It classified type of car as a nominal variable. Do we agree? Yes, we do. It classified the ID of the respondent, the serial number of the respondent, as a nominal variable. Is that correct? Instead of being serial number 125, I could be serial number 120. There is no order to it. So absolutely.
Hello?
Yep.
Hi, sorry
quiet.
to interrupt. It's just that I'm having trouble downloading the data file and finding it on SPSS.
I will walk you through that. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Why don't you hold off till the end of the lecture, and then what you can do is share your screen with me, and I can help you with that. Okay. Most of this, however, my suggestion would be get hold of IT, because they can actually, especially if you're using a Mac, they'll have a better idea in terms of how to do this. Okay. I'm sorry about this, but again, we'll do this right after the lecture. Shouldn't be a problem. So this is a nominal variable. Why a nominal variable? Because there is no order to the people in there. Okay. First set of issues. This is something that I'm not going to touch too much in the lectures. Okay. This is probably not even going to be touched too much in the tutorials. The intention of these is that you can work with these at home at your leisure. So there are 4 sets of variables in here. The first one is what we call issues. That's primarily for you working at home. The second set, this is what we are going to be working with in the lectures, is car attributes. How important is an attribute to you? Okay. How important is an attribute to you? Let's have a look at the first one. In a car, the attribute safety. What is the attribute? An attribute is a feature. So in the car, the safety feature, how important is it to you? And that has been collected on a scale of 1 to 7. What kind of variable is this? Still continuous. Again, as I told you, SPSS does not have continuous variables. It used to till about 5 years back. They've changed it. They call it a scale variable. Okay. So this is the second set of variables that we are going to be playing with. In the lectures, this is going to be our primary concern, which is the importance of attributes. This has got nothing to do with the car that you own. Nothing whatsoever. This is just how important are attributes in a car. Not in your car, in a car. The third set, we'll spend a little bit of time on this. These are values. How much do you value fun and excitement? How much do you value sense of belonging, and so on? What are these? Again, collected on a scale of 1 to 7. How important are these to you? 1, very unimportant. 7, very important. Again, 7 levels. So this is a continuous variable. The second set of variables that we are going to be working with a lot are current car attribute satisfaction. The attributes that we saw earlier, the same ones. In the first set, what was important? What was being asked? How important is safety in a car? In this case, we are asking you, how satisfied are you with the safety of your car? The car that you currently own. So the first one is how important is it in a car? The second set, although the attributes are exactly the same, is in your current car, how important is that attribute? Sorry, how satisfied are you with that attribute? Notice that this is again on a scale of 1 to 7. I'm very satisfied with comfort in my car. I'm very unsatisfied with comfort in the car. Again, 1 to 7. Still continuous. Okay. So this is the second set, overall fourth set that we are going to be playing with. Values and issues, not as much. The other two are going to be our focal variables for our lectures. Last set of variables, the 4 of these. Okay. Age, sex, education, and income. Let's go through each of these one at a time. The first one is age of the respondent. So what is the age of the respondent? Notice that doesn't start off with 1. It starts off with 2. 2, 35 and under. 3, 36 to 45. How many levels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. 5 levels. I can assume this variable to be continuous. Notice what SPSS says. SPSS says it's ordinal, because SPSS thought it's a group, so it's ordinal, which it is. It's just that it's got 5 or more levels. Hence, I can assume it to be continuous. So be very careful about this. A variable can be assumed to be continuous. An ordinal variable can be assumed to be continuous. It's not a continuous variable. It can be assumed to be continuous. And that's going to be the pattern that we are going to use. Okay. Second, sex of the respondent, 0 female, 1 male. 2 levels, no order, there's no two ways about it. It's a nominal variable. Third, education level of the respondent. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 levels, it's an ordinal variable. 4 levels, can I assume it to be continuous? No, I can't. Why is it that 1 is missing? 1 is missing because people who have less than a high school graduation, they don't own a luxury car. So although the survey started off with it, we had to remove it. So that's why 1 is missing. Okay? Which is why we haven't cleaned this data. We've kept it just the way it was in the original survey. The last one is your income. Income of the respondent. 4 levels. It's an ordinal variable. 4 levels because income is increasing. So there's an order to it. Can I assume it to be continuous? No, I can't. Why can't I? Because there are just 4 possible answers. So this is our data set. That is what we are going to be analyzing for this entire semester. So what I'm going to do is stop right now. Just try and open the data set when you get the time, and some of you, if you want to stay back, I can do the entire process all over again, just to make sure that everything is working for you. If it isn't, there should be a website, there should be an email address, and they are the ones who will be able to help you better. But again, it's not something which is rocket sciencey, but it's a little bit difficult for me because my thing seems to be sticking, and it's happened in the past. So I will, let's try it anyway. Okay, so try and open this file, and if possible, if you can open it, excellent. If you can't, we'll be doing this next week anyway, plus your tutor is going to be helping you open this file. I'm going to stop now as far as this lecture goes, and we'll talk again next week, but I will try and work for all of you who are having problems opening the file. I'll guide you through the process one more time, so let me try that. Okay, so all of you who want to leave fine with the process that's going on, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can stick around, have a look. If it doesn't work on this computer, what I'll do is I'll try and open this on my laptop and I'll join the Teams meeting, and then we can take it from there. So let's try this. Do you want to proceed? Yes.
Sorry, I just had a
Sure,
quick question. So when we're analyzing this data, we're doing it per individual. There's no way to summarize this.
You will be
whatsoever.
summarizing this. You will be summarizing
got
this.
it.
You
Okay.
will. None of the data is going to be at an individual level in terms of when you report, because at the individual level, statistics don't mean a thing. So just to give you an example, there's a 30% chance of a person who is driving a car drunk of getting into an accident. Okay, now that's a 30% chance based on averages. Right? If you, on the other hand, are sitting in a car, there's either a 100% chance of you being in a crash or a 100% chance of you not being in a crash. There is no middle, grounds about it. So all that statistics revolves around is a group. It's never at the individual level. The individual forms a part of a group, and that group has averages. Those are what we work with. Okay, so it's never going to be at the individual level. It's always going to be at the group level. Okay, all the analyses that
Okay,
we
got
do.
it. Thank you.
All right, let's see. Let's give it one more shot and
So-
hope that works. Yeah, somebody else had a question? Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead.
In the message you sent us earlier, you said you were going to talk about the quiz for
Yes,
next
I
week.
will. Sorry, should have thought about that. Thank you for reminding me. So the quiz is going to be only
That's
till
okay.
what we have done today. I was hoping that we could sneak a little bit of SPSS in. That's obviously not happening. So only till the 3 different types of data that are available to us. So nothing over and above that. So we'll stop there. Yeah. So the lectures till the 3 different types of data that are available to you.
Gotcha. And what is the what is the test going to be like? Is
It's
it
going to be
multiple choice?
all the tests that you're going to have are going to be short answer questions. Short answer meaning really short answer. We're not looking at more than 2 or 3 sentences. Again, those are going to be handled by the tutors, but I'll have a look at the questions beforehand. The final exam is going to be slightly different, where you might have about 5 or 6 multiple choices, but all questions are going to be short answers. The practicum that you're going to have, again, we're probably skipping the gun right now, but the practicum is going to involve you logging onto SPSS. By that time, hopefully, we'll have a better idea of how SPSS is going to work from home. So that's why I've held off on telling you in terms of what's going to be done in the first year. But tomorrow, next week, it's just going to be short answer questions. Anything else before we move on?
Sorry, I'm confirming it's all open book.
Everything is open book, open notes. Unfortunately, I understand the fact that the integrity of the thing is compromised, but just to let you know, even even during other times, everything was open book, open notes. So 2052 has always been open book and open notes. The only thing which I think is being compromised, and I'm going to trust you because there is nothing else that I should be doing, is that you don't talk amongst each other. But other than that, everything is open book, open notes, open book, open lecture, whatever you want. The intention is not that you mug stuff up. That's what is good about 2052, which is the application component. And you can't, cheat in terms of application. You can converse in trying to figure out how to apply stuff. But over and above that, it's all how you, phrase your answer, what test you pick, how you run the test, and most importantly, how you interpret the output. Anybody else?
Hello?
It's going to be easy, don't worry. Okay? At least the first one is going to be easy. First one, of course, you have the options of conversing amongst yourselves, but again, as I suggested, I would request you not to, because the intention is, as it is, the class is diluted by so much, because you're not stopping me every single sentence, you're just being polite. But at least what you can try and get out of this, like I said, the grades are probably going to be fine. Last semester, I just had to fail one person. So grades are not the focal point. The point is that you should be able to walk out of a market research class, at least out of 2052, knowing how to analyze data, basic data. Any more questions? Yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Where do we actually log in to take the test?
It's going to be on Moodle. So you'll get an email. So it's going to be put on Moodle. There's going to be a link. So you'll get an email detailing all of that. So it's going to be
Okay,
Moodle.
thank you.
Okay. The exact application, again, it's being handled by IT, so I have relatively little idea. From what I have been told, and this is one of those courses, I was not supposed to teach this, so everything is being handled other than the lectures by somebody else. What I've been told is it's going to be on Moodle rather than an external component. I'm pretty sure all of you, at least most of you, will be familiar with this. I am not, because last semester I did all of this myself and I did this externally, which was relatively smooth. But since I'm not doing it this term, whatever be it, it's going to be handled. If there are any problems, we'll handle them. I know, because you are going through a similar level of uncertainty as I am. So you will get an email. Anything else? And again, I'll put that link online, so if you want to talk to me anonymously, please go ahead and do so. And I promise you that link is going to be completely anonymous. I'm not